there's always drama going on in the vegan and animal rights community. And to be honest, it gets really exhausting. And it's one of the reasons that I have sort of taken a step back from activism and animal rights over the last year and really tried to take some self-care time during COVID to rejuvenate. But at the same time, the things that people say about animal rights activists and about veganism and vegans in general, a lot of times it needs to be addressed. And today, I obviously wasn't planning on making a video, maybe not so obvious, but I've been watching a couple of different videos today that have been like sort of a back and forth about Unnatural Vegan, that vegan teacher, Wallace, and now Obese is involved as well. And I feel like I just, needed to put some further information out there, and I needed to say my piece. So for those of you that don't know, I am a grassroots animal rights activist in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. So I am on the ground frequently, not so much in the last year because of COVID, but before that, like 4 to 5 different events per week, working to educate the public about animal rights and about vegan issues. So I think there is a lot of confusion in this debate about what it means to be vegan, and I think that's where I can add some clarification. So I'm going to sit here, I'm going to watch Obese video, and I'm going to talk about it with you. I'm not going to call this a reaction video, but more of a, I don't really know what to call this. It's not a reaction, but just adding in my 2 cents as an animal rights activist. And I want to put it out there. I actually watch Obese and I watch Unnatural Vegan, both of them. I don't watch Wallace, and I don't follow that vegan teacher, but I like both Obese and Unnatural Vegan a lot, and so it is interesting as a viewer and follower of both of them to see them sort of coming into my world of animal rights activism. So.
And Swayze, I believe, is the name of Unnatural Vegan, kind of wanted to respond to that. Okay.
It's Swayze, like Patrick Swayze.
The thing that I noticed was normally Unnatural Vegan is very good at being like, hey, like, she's very like middle of the road with being like, I agree with what this person might be saying, but like, holy smokes, this is like a terrible way to say it. The person that I think of, most popular person probably is like Freely, right? Like she's always like, Freely, I don't agree with what she says. She's like always kind of pushing against what she is saying. And it seems like in this video, she is more about trying to almost defend what this woman, that vegan teacher, is saying. And again, we'll get into more of this stuff later, but that's the thing.
So I'm really not sure what he's trying to say here, because literally right after when he plays the next clip, it shows how middle of the road Unnatural Vegan is, and it's one of the reasons why I follow her to begin with. To be honest, I don't agree with a lot of stuff that Unnatural Vegan says, but I really appreciate her alternative perspective, and I appreciate how, logical and intelligent she tries to be when she approaches a lot of these like very difficult, complex moral conundrums that we encounter as vegans and as animal rights activists. And I don't see a point in her video. And I watched her video before I watched his reaction. I really don't see where she's not being middle of the road. I mean, she really is trying to give Wallace the benefit of the doubt. But that vegan teacher, I mean, in a lot of ways, she's really not wrong. And what happens here is that you have a lot of non-vegans, or as carnists, as we like to call them in the vegan community. We have a lot of non-vegans who are, very offended that vegans would dare to compare animal rights and animal rights issues to human issues. And that's really what it comes down to. And that, and to call it what it is just plain speciesism. But I'm sure we'll get into that more later.
I noticed it was a little bit interesting to me.
It's hard to go vegan all at once, and even if they never go vegan, vegetarian is still a huge step in the right direction and something that should be celebrated. in my opinion. It's still a huge break from the norm. And don't tell random...
So literally right there, she's agreeing with Wallace and disagreeing with that vegan teacher. And apparently she's going to come out with a whole different video on that vegan teacher later in a part 3 of this series she's doing on her, where she's critical of that vegan teacher. And a natural vegan is not afraid to criticize anyone, and she doesn't just, give people praise for no reason, and she certainly doesn't give people praise or any sort of benefit just because they're vegan, and I don't think that she does that here.
Strangers to dump their partners, like aside from extreme cases like they're being beaten or something, just don't do that. Just because someone asks you a question doesn't mean you have to answer it.
This person's girlfriend, according to them, literally is already vegetarian. I thought her mission was to turn people vegan, but if we're like abandoning them, how is that gonna turn anybody vegan?
100%. Well said.
Are gay people going to heaven?
Gay people are going to hell.
So is it true? Are gay people going to hell?
First she's talking about LGBT, and then we're randomly shoved into veganism. Except I guess she's just going from For You page to For You page.
That's literally all she's doing. Like I said before, it's the shotgun approach. She's trying anything and everything to get eyes on the footage that exposes the animal agriculture industry for what it really is.
So I know where this is coming from. So it's basically kind of talking about how any kind of like the whole publicity thing, right? Any publicity is good publicity. We've all publicity. Geez, we've all heard that saying a million times. I don't really know how much I would say. I feel like a lot of vegans would be like, I really don't like when people are like Freely or when they're like that vegan teacher, because it really does put a bad stigma for a lot of other vegans. Again, I'm not vegan, so I'm not, I guess.
Okay, I'm pausing him here because he keeps comparing that vegan teacher to Freely the Banana Girl, and they're really not comparable at all. I mean, like I said, I don't follow that vegan teacher very closely, but that vegan teacher, as far as I know, doesn't talk a lot about nutrition, and one of the main issues with Freely is that she focuses so much on a high-carb, low-fat diet, and she focuses so much on obesity and people gaining weight, and I don't know, she's got a lot of other issues, but that vegan teacher is simply focusing on animal rights, as far as I know, so they're just completely different.
I can't talk from personal experience, but I would assume, like, that's how I feel about people in the fitness industry that sell garbage plans, or people in the weight loss industry that promote garbage things for weight loss. Like, I don't like that because it makes me look bad, and I don't want to look.
Okay, yeah, so there is a divide in our community, in the animal rights and vegan community, between people who we often refer to them as like animal welfare advocates or apologists or whatever, people who are less extreme in their approach to getting people to go vegan. And then there's another side, a different side of groups, of the group where people are, a little bit more intense. They do more protesting, they have, a more radical approach. And I always say that we need both sides. We literally need both types of people. One of the benefits of the more radical side of the animal rights movement is that those people make the people who are less radical seem normal. I mean, it wasn't more than like 10 years ago when passing out leaflets on a street corner in, just like a city was really radical, and people would get upset and offended by that. I mean, I went vegetarian. I wasn't even vegan back then. I went vegetarian when I was young, and I remember going to my grandparents' house and my uncle just like totally laying it on me and calling me stupid and treating me like shit because I could possibly care about animals when he valued hunting so much. And now you see people don't even care about vegetarians really. Like, vegetarianism is so normal. Being vegan is like the radical or extreme thing to do. So every time you kind of push the envelope and make things more extreme, you're allowing to normalize that other thing that otherwise would have been extreme, if that makes sense. So yes, I definitely, as a vegan, I support it. I think it's fine as long as you're not harming anyone else. I don't care what kind of advocacy you do, and we don't have any data or any sort of proof to show us that this type of activism, the way that extreme or like radical activists advocate, is any better or worse than a different approach. We just really don't know.
Bad. Is that selfish? Maybe, but like those are, I'm surprised that she's not more against it. But again, whatever. Everyone's different.
She's made it pretty clear that she's not a bigot. Most vegans are not bigots. Just the fact that she's not avoiding viral videos that are focused on like LGBTQ issues doesn't really mean anything.
Veganphobia on this app is very strong, and if we can get rid of racism here and we can get rid of homophobia, surely we can get rid of the cruelty that animal rights activists are exposed to on a regular basis.
She got tagged in a video that she didn't like and immediately compared it to racism, homophobia, and sexism. Clearly, you have never experienced racism. If your first thought is, hey, this is just like racism, being vegan is definitely a choice. It's definitely not on the same level as other forms of bigotry.
Have you experienced vegan phobia? If not, does that disqualify you from talking about it? Because if it does, what is the point of this? Vegans are well known as being a hated group, and while it has finally become socially unaccepted, at least in most like developed parts of the world, to express like anti-gay sentiment, expressing hatred of vegans is not only acceptable, but like actively cheered on by a lot of people, including within the social justice movement. There are still people calling for social justice and devaluing animals and ridiculing and shaming those who are driven to speak on their behalf.
Being vegan is definitely a choice. It's definitely not on the same level as other forms of bigotry.
Veganism is a choice, sure, and that obviously makes it different from racism and sexism. But homophobia? Having that orientation isn't a choice, but obviously being in a gay relationship is a choice.
Okay. This is the take that, this is the take that I was like, what? So I was confused. I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw this, I was like, I was a little, I don't want to say I was like heated, but I was just like, the cringe in me, I was like, oh, why would you say it like that? Why would you say it like that? Okay, so I actually commented on this video already. And I said, oh, no, veganism does not equal being gay. Now, I want to say, oh, I didn't show you guys that, but I commented right here. So I said, oh, no, veganism does not equal being gay. And
all right, this is the part I really wanted to touch on because I think I can add some details here that people really aren't discussing. The biggest difference between veganism and racism, and homophobia and sexism is that when you're talking about veganism, people often think about vegans, right? Sure, people discriminate against vegans all the time, but at its core, veganism is not about people. It's not about humans. It's not about vegans. It's about the animals. And so in this case, the people who are performing the oppression in this social justice issue are the humans against the animals. And it just so happens that because the animals can't talk, because they can't advocate for themselves, other people who in essence are also oppressors, because none of us were born vegan. I mean, barely, I don't really know anybody in real life who was born vegan. So at one point in time, we all oppressed animals. We all ate animals. We all harmed and participated in the murder of animals. We have to advocate for them, right? So oftentimes people get confused about what the point of veganism is and who the real victim is. And in this conversation, we're focusing on the victim being the vegan, when in fact the victim is the animal. They're the cows and the pigs and the chickens and the other farm animals and the dogs and the monkeys and all of the other animals that we test on, that we eat, that we use when we really don't have to. And that is really key to understand here.
so what it seems like, and again, I'm trying to understand, and and get it, because a lot of people are like, well, she's not saying that, she's saying this. So they're not trying. So apparently, I think what she is trying to say is that it doesn't equate to the same thing. But the fact that you can be gay and choose to, I guess, just be single for the rest of your life because you don't want to be hated on for being gay is the same as like a choice you would make, or similar to the choice you would make to be being vegan.
Okay, so here's where I start to disagree with Unnatural Vegan, and it's not the first time I've disagreed with her. I don't think that this is the best comparison, because in a lot of ways, being vegan is not a choice. I mean, it is a choice, right? We can decide whether or not we want to be vegan, in the same way that we can decide whether or not we want to be racist, and whether or not we want to be sexist, and whether or not we want to be homophobic. So yeah, sure, that's a choice, but no one would advocate for people to be racist. We don't accept racist people in our society. We don't accept homophobic people in our society, and we don't accept sexist people in our society in the same way that we don't accept animal abusers in our society. And that's why in the animal rights community, we try to change the narrative and stop focusing so much on vegans and start turning the tide and focusing more on carnism and carnus, which is, the act of abusing animals and how ingrained abusing animals is in our society. So yeah, sort of, veganism is a choice, but really that's not the right word for it. It's a moral obligation, right? It's a moral imperative to be vegan, to reflect your values of compassion and kindness and nonviolence in your day-to-day actions. And this conversation is so focused on just the absolute wrong thing.
Now, I understand what she is trying to say, right? Where it's like, no, I'm not saying that being vegan is the same exact thing as being gay, because she also says that she thinks that being gay isn't a choice, which at least we're there, which thank God, that's a good thing. I agree with that. But the way that she phrased it after that, it just, I don't think that she was trying to be like sound the way that she sounded. But dude, like, it is so, again, like the take is just so cold, man, like, or hot, I guess. It's like, okay, let's keep going. But that's the biggest point of contention in this video that a lot of people have.
Even the most conservative.
She's not equating. I mean, he already says this. He knows this, and I guess, clickbait, whatever. He still wants to talk about it. She's not equating being vegan to being gay. She's not doing that. They're obviously two separate things. But she is saying that vegans experience oppression, and in a lot of ways we do. I mean, it's not acceptable to be vegan in today's day and age. And similarly to the way that, being gay is like kind of a choice but not really a choice, being vegan is kind of a choice but not really a choice. So I see where the comparison lies. It's not, people, they want to be mad about something, right? They want to call Unnatural Vegan homophobic, because then that takes away from her argument. But it's not true. I mean, she's not homophobic. She's very liberal. She has other videos where she talks about gay rights and her liberal views. I mean, she's not a homophobe. I don't know what people want here.
Evangelical out there will acknowledge that humans have desires, and sometimes they're homosexual ones, and they'll say to repress it and marry a woman anyway. God's testing you or whatever, or it's Satan's influence, that sort of shit. Again, sexual orientation isn't a choice, but that's not what these bigots, that's not what these Christians are going after. That's not what they're calling sinful. They're calling gay sex, gay relationships, sinful. And more specifically, the unrepentant action. This is where they are able to justify the actions of some of their anti-gay pastors, right? Who are caught in a gay brothel or whatever, right? No. That's different from the man who's out and out gay and in a full-on relationship. I'm an atheist. I don't believe any of this, and I think homophobia is wrong. regardless whether you're talking about choice or not. But it really suggests that he is just not very familiar with the opposition by saying that homophobia is not related to choice. But let's ignore that.
Oh my gosh, dude. It's just like, I don't even know what to say, man. Like, why would you try and make these things equal or try and compare them? Dude, I thought I would be more prepared for this because I've watched this video already, but I'm still like, I'm shocked at how bad of a take this is.
Why not? Why not make these comparisons? Is it because you don't care about animals? Is it because in your mind it's like so disgusting to even consider how there might be similarities between the experience of what an animal goes through, a non-human animal, I should say, and the experience of a human animal? I mean, they really aren't that different, and that's why the comparisons exist. That's why we make them, so that people can try to look within themselves and find commonalities, find comparisons between what they go through and what the animals go through. And that's why the people who are vegan today. I didn't go vegan because I don't know, love kale. No. I'm vegan because I understand that if I was in the animal's shoes, I wouldn't want to be treated in that same way. And in the same way that I think that gay people shouldn't be racist and shouldn't be sexist, and Black people shouldn't be sexist and shouldn't be homophobic, I think all of those things intersect because all of those people experience, a commonality that is oppression. Animals experience oppression as well. And so I'm going to align my values with my actions. I'm not going to be racist. I'm not going to be sexist. I'm not going to be homophobic. And I'm not going to harm animals.
Why would you think that this is a good thing to say? Like, oh my gosh.
Let's just pretend that homophobes really do go after the urge. That's what they hate is the sexual orientation part. Okay, what about religious bigotry? Religion is even more of a choice. People change their religions all the time, moving from one to another or becoming atheist or even atheist to Christian or whatever. It's very much a choice.
She very much frames it as a choice to be oppressed. Just listen.
LGBTQ, we support you, but if you don't like oppression, why the f aren't you vegan yet?
How is that not a red flag?
She's talking about oppression of animals, of non-human animals within animal agriculture. You support oppression of others by buying those products. If categorically you don't like oppression, then why are you supporting oppression? Isn't that hypocritical? She's still pro-gay rights because it's the right thing to do, even if some gay people won't acknowledge and change their behavior when it comes to animals. But yeah, she's calling out the online LGBTQ community. It's not how I would do it, but she's not wrong.
So one comment said,
Okay, so that is like the main contention that is with this video. Now, I don't know if this is weird to do, but Deangel actually commented on this video. Oh, you know what? He might have deleted it. That's too bad. I know that he did at some point, and it looks like it's not. Oh, here we go. It's right here. Okay, good. So Deangel actually commented on this video, and he said that he's not going to make a video, but he kind of ended up going over all of the things that he disagrees with what she has to say. Now, again, I don't really want to go. We're not going to watch this whole video. I'm sorry. We're not going to watch a 33-minute video. But I kind of wanted to highlight some of the things that he says in his comment up until the point that we watched. Okay. And so this is it right here. So this is Deangelo Wallace's account. He has the little check mark and everything. Okay. So he says right here, I am not making a response video to this because I'm not going to subject my viewers to yet another That Vegan Teacher theme video, but I can definitely respond to your main points since I'm here. 349. Have you experienced veganphobia? If not, does that disqualify you from talking about it? Because if it does, what is the point of this? I never said that that not experiencing racism disqualifies you from speaking about it, though. It disqualifies you from speaking over those who do, which happens not just overtly, but by things like entering the conversation and comparing it to your own problems that have nothing to do with your race, etc., especially when no one discriminates you based on your race or sexuality or gender in the first place. I think one of the biggest problems with trying to say that, like, I'm not saying that she says that they're the same, but trying to compare veganism to like race is that veganism, for the most part, you can like not say anything and no one will ever know you're vegan. Like if you're a black dude, you're a black dude. Like you can't just be like, not black today. Like it doesn't work like that, right? So that's why I think people are upset. And again, I'm not saying that I think that she is saying this is exactly the same, but even to like try and make it similar is just so silly. It'd be like me. It would be like me, because so many people hate on CrossFit, and I have to deal with CrossFit phobia so much, and they always make fun of me for liking CrossFit. I'd be like, dude, the oppression that I feel is kind of similar to the oppression that a black guy feels, because people really don't like CrossFit, and they're mean about it to me. Like, dude. Oh my gosh. Okay.
No, it's not the same as you not liking CrossFit, and here's the difference. It's like racists being mad at anti-racist people because they don't support racism. It's like sexists bullying and abusing and oppressing anti-sexists because they don't support sexism. We are simply trying to advocate for the animals and having a constant barrage of the whole world, because we're the minority. I mean, think about it. But vegans, we're like less than 3% of the population, if that. I mean, probably closer to like 1 globally. No one agrees with what we say. Literally nobody. We are constantly fighting an uphill battle with people we care about, people who we agree with in a lot of other ways. Like Obese, I love your channel. I agree with a lot of stuff that you say, and yet here you are, not vegan, and, you know, critical of people making reasonable comparisons between animal oppression and human oppression.
So, and then the next one, vegans are well known as a hated group, and while it has finally become socially unacceptable in most developed parts of the world to express anti-gay sentiment, expressing hatred for vegans is not only accepted but actively cheered on. See my last point, you did the exact thing I pointed out. Veganism is a choice, sure, but that obviously makes it different from racism and sexism. But homophobia? And he says no.
I will say, in a way, Wallace is doing the exact same thing that he tells Unnatural Vegan not to. I mean, he's trying to talk over her experience, talk over her, you know, thoughts and feelings about what it's like to be a vegan in a non-vegan world. I think she mentions dystopia in her original video, which is a really intense feeling. I mean, it's awful to finally understand what's going on with animals, and we call it like waking up. You know, you live your whole life, you have no idea what's happening, and then you watch the footage and you make the connection, and you realize that there's something actually seriously terrible going on. And hi. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. And in fact, not only does nobody care, but they make fun of you for it. They specifically eat animals in front of you. They really like bully you and abuse you. And I wouldn't be surprised if going forward, when veganism becomes, you know, more popular, when animal rights activism takes a larger role, if there wasn't violence that came because of it. I mean, I'm sure there's already violence right now. I mean, you know, talk about animal rights activists. Regan Russell was run over by a truck. She was run over by a transport truck and killed in Canada because she was advocating for animal rights at a peaceful protest. So yeah, I would not be surprised if that continued to happen more and more into the future. But to bring it back, it doesn't matter. It's not about us. It's not about people. It's about the animals.
Stop. Please do not go on. That was the really bad take. Yeah. I don't know about this one, man. I do not know about this one.
All right, so the most important point that I want to just rehash over and over again, the detail that I feel like I'm bringing to this conversation, the value that I think I'm bringing to this conversation that neither Unnatural Vegan nor Obese or Deangels Wallace really are understanding, is that veganism is different from all of these other social justice movements because it's the only movement where the oppressed, where the victim is not able to advocate for their own rights. And as a result, vegans, human beings, have to step in and be sort of representatives of the victims. You know, a Black person that experiences racism can talk about their experiences experiencing racism, but the animals can't discuss it with you. And so the vegans advocate on their behalf. That's why veganism is not about us. It's not about the people. It's not about the diet. It's not about any of that. It's about the animals. It's about bringing light to these issues. And that makes it not a personal choice, right? We have a moral obligation to fight for the animals. Just like I have a moral obligation not to be racist. I have a moral obligation not to be sexist, not to be homophobic, because I don't believe that those values, I don't believe that, you know, discriminating against anyone for something that they can't control or for something that like really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, as in something that, you know, doesn't hurt anyone or, you know, bring any negativity to the world. Like, no, I have a moral obligation to support those people, regardless of your skin color, regardless of your sexual orientation, regardless of your gender or lack thereof. You know, you should include those people in here too. Just like I have a moral obligation to just let anybody live that wants to live, regardless of their species, regardless of whether or not they're a human animal or a non-human animal. So Obese, I am happy to talk to you more about this. If you want to go more in depth on any type of issue related to veganism, especially animal rights and animal rights activism. I know that you have a dog who you seem to love really, really deeply, and I would just encourage you to think about these issues in the context of your dog, and how you would feel if somebody was eating your dog, if somebody, you know, put your dog in a slaughterhouse, if somebody gassed your dog, all of the terrible things that happen in this world to animals that, you know, we can very easily avoid simply by not eating them and not participating in industries that support animal abuse. So I will leave it at that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.